Meeting in Enterprise Resources Committee of the 13th of May 2025. We have present in the meeting Councillors Anderson, Barker, Grogan, Brown, Carmichael, Convery. We have apologies from Councillor Cowan and Councillor Clark substituting. We have present Councillor Cowie. We have apologies from Councillor Devlin and Councillor Falconer is substituting. We have present Councillor Dewar. Apologies from Councillor Fagan. We have present Councillors Ferguson Miller, Gowland, Horn, Johnson Dempsey, Kerr. Just check if Councillor Lennon is in the meeting. We don't have Councillor Lennon at the moment. We have present Councillors Lockhart, Hugh MacDonald, McAllen, McCreary, McLachlan, Nugent, Bob, Toner and Watson. And with that, I'll hand back to the Chair. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Tracy. Item 1, declaration of interest. Any declarations of interest? Don't see any. Item 2, minutes of the previous meeting. Sorry, does someone say? John.
Agenda item 7, a declaration of interest where it references Route to Work South. I sit on the board of Route to Work South.
Okay, thanks very much, John. No other declarations of interest. In terms of the item 2, minutes of the previous meeting, pages 5 to 10. Can I move the minutes of the meeting? Any issues on that one? There appears to be a range of people. Can I start with Ian McAllen?
Just in some clarity regarding the waste management resources, can maybe just ask where we are with the 5,000 properties that previously had not received the burgundy bins, and also have we increased the vehicle fleet established by the free refuse collection vehicles in 2026, and have we recruited the additional waste operatives required to crew these vehicles? Just a couple of questions, please.
David, is that for you?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councillor McAllen. Could I be kind enough to ask if you could repeat? I couldn't quite hear it coming through there. If you don't mind, is that okay? Thank you.
Just some clarity regarding where we are with the 5,000 properties that previously had not been provided with the burgundy bins. That's the first question. The second one is the vehicle fleet established by Tree Refuse Collection in 2025-2026. Have we recruited the additional waste operatives required to man these vehicles?
Okay, so taking your first point, we have had I need to get you the exact figures. We've got had an increase in the number of, we've had an uptake in terms of those not previously receiving, been able to receive the burgundy bins. The uptake in the rural area has not been particularly significant in terms of when related to the uptake in terms of the permits in the urban areas. But I'm happy to go away and get you the exact figures around about that. We'd need to divide it between the urban and rural areas. So I'm happy to provide those figures. And in terms of the recruitment, again, Kevin Carr unfortunately not here today. I'd need to look into that in terms of the recruitment of those particular employees and get back to you, and I'm happy to do that.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
David, do you want to give us any kind of update on the kind of the take-up of the new scheme altogether?
Yep. Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, so I'm awaiting more up-to-date figures. However, we, in terms of the number of bins, the permits, and despite it being quite a difficult period of time in terms of social media and such, like the actual number of uptake of bins has increased. I think they're in the region of 30,000 permits at this particular stage. But again, Chair, I'm waiting on updated figures for that this week, and I'm happy to share.
Thanks very much. Councillor Anderson, John. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. I just wonder if we could get in that report as well whether we actually replace the 4 14-tonne refuse collection vehicles and replace them with the smaller vehicles, so that we could get the food waste from flatted properties and the garden waste and properties located on restricted access roads. That was part of the deal as well. And I wonder, did we manage to recruit the 4 FTEs on a temporary basis and the 9 FTEs on a permanent basis that is required to roll this out? On a separate subject, but on the same agenda, page 6, halfway down, the top employee costs and the actions taken to fill vacancies. And it said that we'll look at whether vacancy numbers could be provided to the member concerned. I'm just wondering if we've got an update on that. And the same at the bottom bullet point, the previous provision of vacancy numbers in the workforce.
John, can we come to that later on the item to do with workforce monitoring?
No, but it's on here, Chair.
Oh, it's not on, no, it isn't, is it? Sorry, you're right.
That's not on the minutes.
That's right, we
I'm
don't
just
do
asking
that
if we
every
get an
time.
update on things that was raised at the last meeting and it's
Yeah.
now on the minutes.
Yeah. Is that? Yes, Elaine?
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, I think you'd asked the last time in terms of the previous committee reports used to reference vacancy numbers and the number of employees that had left. And then we previously had indicated where managers had stated they were holding the vacancy or whether they were proposing to fill them. We don't have that facility just now, but the team are working on that to be able to produce that. So I'm hoping late summertime we'll be able to give a bit more detail within the reports in terms of vacancies. It will just be about, you know, the number of people that have left and those that then were recruiting. So that was what we previously reported on at this committee. So we're actively trying to make sure that we can replicate that and include that in the report. Okay.
Okay, any other questions on the minutes? Can I move the minutes?
I'll second it, Chair.
Thanks very much. Moving on to the monitoring items. Item 3, revenue monitoring statement, budget monitoring statement 24-25, pages 11 to 20. Can I invite Louise Harvey to speak to the report?
Thank you, Chair. So this is the third report to committee on the revenue budget covering the period 1st of April through to the 21st of February 25, and that's period 12 of our financial year. The main financial implications of the report are in paragraph 5.1 on page 11, and the resources projected outturn for 24-25 is an underspend of £40,000 after the approved transfers to reserves. It's a balanced budget. And this is the position following the completion of the Council's probable outturn exercise, and is not a changed, as is the same position that we reported at the last committee. We are in the midst of the year-end, finalising the year-end accounts for both the resource and the Council, and I can update that it's a positive position and we appear to be on track for that outturn, if not slightly better. So in terms of the reported position, this is outlined in the attached appendices for each of the main services and reflects underspends in our employee costs, and these are supporting costs of transport across various services, as well as an under-recovery in school meals income, parking income and income from EV charging. There are also additional costs of supplies due to the costs of recycling bins and IT costs, overspends in our property due to costs in some of our depots, costs of cleaning and janitorial equipment, as well as additional costs within our admin side of things for medicals and for financing charges. We're also forecasting an overspend in our payments to contractors due to bridge repairs and structures within the road service. So work is ongoing to finalise the year-end position, as I've said, for the resource. And at the moment, we will be reporting this to the Executive Committee in June, and we'll follow that up with the reporting of the year-end position 24-25 to the next meeting of this committee in August. In terms of the other parts of the report, we have some budget environments that are proposed as set out at the bottom of the appendices, and these reflect movements in the community and enterprise budget since we last reported, and that covers the period 28th of December through to the 21st of February, and cover a couple of small areas, transfers in respect of capital funding, and also budget realignment to reflect how we deliver our service within facilities for the universal free school meals, environmental services, and also within our fleet budget. So if I can refer committee back to paragraph 2, the committee is asked to approve the following recommendations: that the forecast to the 31st of March is of an underspend of 40,000 before the approved transfers to reserve is noted, and a balanced position thereafter. And these are details in Appendix A of the report, and that the proposed budget environments are approved. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. It has a certain historical feel about it, doesn't it, after all the budget discussions. Could I ask one small point? We've referred to this before on page 14, the care of gardens scheme within the grounds maintenance element. I've always thought it was a little surprising that's under required, as it were. Is there any kind of waiting list on that at the moment, or is it making any difference in the current year as we go forward into the summertime? It seems a little odd there's not a full take-up of demand there.
Yeah, so I had asked Colin Reid about that, so he's going to provide us with the number for the private care of gardens. Obviously, the care of garden makes up the HRA side for our council house stock, as well as private residents. So it did fall away following the pandemic when other, when people went to other providers when we were unable to provide that service. Also, the charging structure for the increase in the charges this year, there's been a slight fall off, but they are promoting the scheme and they're hoping it should pick up across the rest of the year.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Can I then move the report?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. The report is approved. Item 4, the Capital Budget Monitoring Statement, 24-25, pages 21 to 24. Graham Booth to speak to this one. Graham.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. This is our standard capital budget monitoring report and the fourth for the financial year 2024-25, and this reflects the budget, spend and outturn position to the 21st of February 2024, which is our accounting period 12. Section 3 gives the background to the report and explains the revised budget is based on the programme approved back in June last year and adjusted for approved changes throughout the year, and there has been no change to the budget since the last report to this committee. At section 5.1, we're noting the resources total capital programme for the year is 47.364 million. At section 5.2, the forecast spend for the year is noted at period 12 of 38.925 million, and this is the same forecast as the last report to the committee. The forecast underspend reflects the timing of spend across this year and into the new financial year, and results in budget required in 2025-26 rather than 2024-25. Funding for projects remaining underspent at financial year end will be carried forward to allow the projects to be completed in the new financial year 2025-26. And officers have continued to maximise spend in 2024-25 where possible. The capital year-end position has currently been finalised, and this will be reported to the Executive Committee on the 25th of June and the next meeting of this committee on the 12th of August. For information, actual spend incurred to the 21st of February was 24.3 million, and as we've been tracking through that spend and the position per anticipating come year-end is in line with the outturn noted. I would then refer committee back to the recommendation in section 2 of the report that the Community and Enterprise Resources budget of 47.364 million and forecast spend of 38.925 million be noted. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Graham. Can I move the report? I don't imagine there will be any questions on that one. Don't think there are. Can I move the report?
I'll second it, Chair.
Thank you very much. The report is approved. Item 5, the Workforce Monitoring Statement, January and February 25, pages 25 to 32. Back to Elaine Maxwell to speak to this one, please. Elaine.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. This is a standard workforce monitoring report which is prepared by personnel and provides you with an update on the employment information for the resource for the period of January and February 25. Section 4.1 details the absence statistics for the resource and show that the resource figure for February 25 was 7.9%, and that is representing an increase of 0.7% when we're comparing ourselves to the previous month. And you will note that the February 25 figure is 0.9% higher than the council-wide figure. And again, the difference between February 25 and February 24 is 0.7% as well. Looking at the absence figures at February and looking at our projected annual average, as we always do, we can see that the resource average at this moment in time for 25-26 is projected at 6.6% in comparison to the council-wide average projection of 5.9%. As you know, and I update often at this committee in terms of the work that is ongoing within the resource, in terms of the number of employees and the level of absence. And obviously we'll note that the figure seems high in comparison to obviously what we're in terms of reporting that increase. Managers are continuing to work, regarding making sure that the appropriate supports are in place, ensuring that we are following the maximising attendance policy and working really closely with personnel. In addition, we have, addition to case conferences with managers and the heads of service along with personnel, we have introduced sessions for managers to speak directly, to book in a session with a personnel advisor to discuss complex cases and being able to progress them in an appropriate rate. There are quite a number of complex, difficult cases, and we've also talked about the length of time that some individuals are waiting in terms of ill health retirement processes. We've had 11 so far this year for our own resource. Thankfully, 7 have already been progressed, and we are seeing an increase, in terms of that time period being followed, that it's reduced from what we have previously reported. So we, at one point, it was regularly over 12 weeks we were waiting on information, where it's much shorter now. Further to that, we've had wellbeing sessions that we've held with facilities employees. I think I mentioned that at the last one, where there was an in-service day where we got a number of providers in around wellbeing support. There was a further session which was successfully received within our cleaning for the most recent in-service day. And as well as that, we're working around mental health and what additional supports we can put and provide out to our services, obviously appreciating the nature and the diverse workforce that we have in terms of that front line, and particularly trying to target some of the male dominated workforce in terms of men's mental health. So quite a bit of work ongoing in the background, just to give you that update. Section 4.2 then goes on to show the occupational health information, which is found in Appendix 2, and you'll see that there were 306 occupational health referrals made during the period. Although this has shown a decrease of 35 when compared to the same period last year, and obviously with the fact that our figures have increased, just to give assurances that actions are being taken, you'll see in the appendix it is predominantly to do with medical referrals, and that will depend on a point in time where somebody's due for that further referral, but just to give that assurance, there's nothing to be concerned about there. Section 4.3 details that there were 8 accidents or incidents recorded within the resource for this period, and as always we continue to monitor that process in terms of making sure that appropriate follow-up steps are taken. Section 4.4 outlines a discipline, grievance and dignity at work activity, and you'll see that there were 12 disciplinary hearings held within the resource this period. 4 internal appeals were held with 2 pending, and we had 2 grievance hearings and 1 dignity at work. 4.5 goes on to show that there were 15 leavers eligible for during this period eligible for an next interview, sorry about that. And as I've mentioned before, we're updating the system to make sure that we can actually start reporting in terms of those leavers and then the posts that we're planning to recruit. Section 5.1 outlines that there were a decrease of 52 employees in post between the position we reported in September of last year to December 24, and you'll see that most of that is relating to the male workforce in terms of both part-time and full-time, and that can be attributed to the kind of seasonal fluctuation in terms of seasonal recruitment. And with that, I would refer committee back to section 2 within the report and ask you to approve the recommendation to note the employment information for January and February 2025. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Elaine. Any questions on that? Councillor Anderson, John.
Yeah, I've just looked at this at 4.5, they're talking about the total number of leavers for eligible for the next interview. That's January, February figures, and then we go down to 5.1, and we get a decrease of 52 employees, September to December. Why are they no matched up? Why is that no January, February rather than September to December?
Thank you. The figures that we refer to at section 5 are to do with Staffing Watch figures, so we are provided that in terms of causal information, so we're bound by certain periods, so it will always be September and then December, so we don't produce those stats at that point in time. The other thing I would say in terms of your analysis of leavers will only cover people that are leaving the organisation voluntarily, so you will never include anybody that's a natural retirement around that. So this is about people who choose to leave the organisation, for another job or caring responsibilities, etc. So those two will never entirely match up.
Okay, thanks, John. I am conscious of the small number of exit interviews that you're doing. I think by recollection that's smaller than it usually is. Yeah. Is there any particular reason for that? As we've always said, exit interviews are really difficult. We try and encourage people to,
participate in that process. We send links. We've made the process much simpler in terms of the online, and the employees can now do that through Fusion, but we are relying on individuals doing it, and actually participating in it. So we're trying very, very hard to increase those numbers, but sometimes it is quite difficult, but we will continue in that front.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. If there are no further questions, can I move that report?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. That report's approved. Moving on to items for decision. Item 6, Community Enterprise Resource Plan 25-26, pages 33 to 60. Can I invite Alison Brown to speak to that report? Alison.
Thank you and good afternoon. This report presents the Community and Enterprise Resource Plan for 25-26 for approval. The resource plan is a key element of the Council's performance management arrangement and establishes actions and measures for the year ahead. All resource plans will be presented as a pack to the Executive Committee on the 25th of June for noting. The 25-26 resource plan is attached in Appendix 1, which includes an action plan which is set out in Section 4. As part of the performance management arrangements, committee will receive a mid-year update of progress on the measures in the resource plan at the end of Q2 and a full end-of-year report. With that, I'd ask committee to approve the resource plan for 25-26, approve the plan be uploaded to the Council's website, approve the plan be reported to Executive Committee in June, and approve the progress reports presented to committee at Q2 and Q4. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. In terms of questions, can I come to Ross Clark, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you very much to Alison for the report. My question relates to the mention of the cost of living crisis on page 41. Of course, we would absolutely agree with the part in the second paragraph of doing all we can to support our communities in these difficult times. Well, my specific point would relate to, with recent proposals to change the benefit system UK-wide, which will of course have some sort of impact on the devolved system in Scotland. I suppose I take it we haven't done any sort of assessment of these changes and the impact upon the demand for our services. If we see that demand for our services in relation to the cost of living crisis increasing over the next year or two.
David.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Councillor Clark. I suppose that question is one that could probably, apply to every council service and not just the services within community and enterprise resources. So in terms of a specific community enterprise, what we try and do is we have a number of we talk about the care garden scheme and other things like that we put in place and to support our communities that are agreed through the council. We're not seeing what I would describe as a dramatic increase in terms of requirements for that. As you can see, in actual fact, some of the schemes have dropped. So there's nothing coming through as yet in respect of that I would be able to kind of report as being directly linked to the cost of living crisis. I do accept that people may have less disposable income in them, and that may mean that they choose to use certain services that the council provide less, but I don't have any data around about that.
Okay, Councillor Rob, Kirsten.
Thank you. Got a couple of questions here. The first is on risk. Given the increasing impact of climate-related storms and floods on the service itself, I know on page 34 you talk about a risk management plan, a risk control plan. Would members be able to see this to ensure that climate risks are being taken up? So that's the first question. And the second question is on 20-mile-an-hour limits. There's a target to introduce these by the end of 2025. I just wondered if we could have an update on when those will be rolled out. Has the resources required for this, and has the council applied to the available Scottish Government money to help with this rollout? Thank you.
It's two different bits, really. Who wants to deal with the first question? David?
Thank you very much. Yep, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councillor Rob. In terms of risk, the council has an overarching kind of corporate approach to risk. I can check that out with colleagues in corporate resources and see if that's something that can be passed on to you. In terms of the 20 miles per hour, I'm going to defer to Colin Park, Chair, with your permission. Thank you.
Colin?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the question, Councillor Rob. The Road Safety Forum debated this probably earlier on this year. You'll maybe recollect we were looking at a whole series of ways of how we approach the rollout of 20 miles an hour. There was going to be a national approach, and then there's going to be an approach now which has been agreed by Scottish Government, where each individual authority will basically take their own priority programme forward. We had hoped to bring something to one of the road safety forums before the summer recess. That's not been possible, but we'll be doing that after the recess, and that will start to set out some areas and priorities. It won't be done by 2025. We are aware of the resources that are available, and as soon as we have a more shaped programme, we will be applying to Scottish Government. It's the same approach across Scotland through the Scots professional body, various councils that are at different stages. We are aware of the options that are available to us, and the resources are challenging, to say the least, in terms of rolling that out, but we want to get it right and roll it out properly with appropriate consultation with members at the forum and also then with the communities as well. Thank you.
I think it's an under-recognised thing, isn't it, from the public about the resources that it takes for signage and for schemes and orders and different things for a lot of these sort of proposals to go through. So I do think there's a bit of an issue there. Did you want to come back on that? Yes.
I suppose it's to make sure that the golden thread from climate action and adaptation is following right through into resource plans, because this particular resource has experienced a lot of challenges. So it was just to try and understand more clearly at a resource level how that's been taken account of in the risk management and control, what sort of things it's flagged up and how those are being addressed. So I would like to see more detail on the resources risk plan, please, to see that this has been taken up. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Anderson.
Thanks, Chair. Page 45, we talk about pavement parking. I'm just wondering, did we recruit enough staff that was required for this rollout? And secondly, how many penalty charge notices have we issued for this? And on page 52, I'm just looking at one of the targets, number 19. This year, the actual number of participants supported via the council-operated employability programme is 2,663. Yet our target for this year, or 25-26, is 1,500 people. I thought a target was something we'd aim for. For it 2,600, are we aiming to take that down to 1,500? Thanks, Chair.
Could I go to Douglas on the second point first? And come back to Colin on the first one. Can do Douglas first, if that's all right. These are targets, of course, aren't they? That's the point.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks for the question. Yeah, I think we've had a discussion just before the meeting. When we set the targets for 23-24 and then subsequently for this financial year, it was in the context of the review of employability and a range of different funding streams coming on board, as well as the development of new programmes and recruitment and new external contracts. So then that target was cautious, and you can see that we kind of exceeded that kind of target. When we set them during the year, it was still during the process of delivery, and now that we're at the end of the year, we can see the kind of the overachievement in that figure, and we're going to go back for Q1 and have a look at that and see if we can increase the target for this year.
I think that's a valid thing to do. I mean, I was conscious of the fact we need to kind of, if we achieve targets and exceed them, clearly want to continue to improve towards excellence, if you like, as much as standing still. So I think that's a very valid point, if I may say so. Can we come to Colin on the pavement parking issue?
Thank you, Chair.
The joy of our lives, isn't it?
Certainly, kind of keeping my inbox full. So thanks for your question, Councillor Anderson. These stats are from early April, so they're not 100% up to date, but as of early April, we'd issued 6,000. We've issued 248 penalty charge notices, not 6,000, because that would be a lot of money. We've issued 2,000 advisory warning notices. The postcards we've put up, and we've had about 600 pieces of correspondence. So it's a pretty challenging area. In terms of the parking attendance, we have 14 full-time equivalent parking attendants across about 18 and individual members of staff, and we are now up to full complement there, and we're just monitoring the resources that we have available for it. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Watson. David.
Thanks, Chair. Page 55 in the report, and I'm going to refer to the major infrastructure roadworks at Hare Myers, Eaglesham Road, Greenhills Road. I think it would be remiss not to comment here about the work that was carried out there. We're nearly at the opening of Greenhills Road and the junction with Eaglesham Road. Talking to Colin earlier about that, and Hare Myers Railway Station is about to open on Monday. But I think it's just to make comment about the work that was carried out by our roads department in this area. It was very challenging work for them. Busy junctions, a lot of issues to overcome, not least queries from myself and no doubt other councillors, but I think a first-class job was carried out by the team, and I just want to put that on record and thank them for that. Not to say it didn't go without issues, but when issues were raised, they were dealt with quickly by the contractor and our own roads team. It wasn't just like fix a wee road, it was a major interchange roundabout with 4 junctions coming into an area that's extremely busy, and major diversions not helped by work being carried out in the Queensway. There was frustrations with people and local residents and all the rest of it, but at the end of the day, I believe it's going to be worth it, and I'd just like to put on record my thanks for the work that was carried out by our staff and the roads team. Thanks, Chair.
I'm sure that will be appreciated by the staff and will be passed on. Thanks, David. Any other questions? Sorry, David McLachlan.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding the pavement parking, it is a very sensitive issue, and I'm sure every member has got their issues with people approaching them and so on. But it was a comment that Colin made regarding the amount. If it had been in the thousands, that would have been an awful lot of money. But I just want to make it clear for anybody who may be taking the time to look at these meetings online and understand, because there is a perception, and it's a wide perception, that this is some sort of money-making issue that the council's involved in. My argument against that, and what response I make to any constituents who make that claim, is we've only got a finite amount of attendance, and if they're putting tickets on people where they shouldn't be parked in the traditional way, like on yellow lines, they're not in the places where there's pavement parking. They can only do one job at a time. They can only issue so many tickets in a day. So there is, just to be clear, and I would like Colin if he could just sort of come back a wee bit again, just to be absolutely clear that this isn't a money-making concern. It's a law that's changed, and we've got the responsibility to make sure it's enforced. On the enforcement of it, I know it's a kind of slow burner, Colin. I think you said before that maybe close to a year since it started, you'll maybe sort of have a better picture of areas that you might have to consider a concession where you're not going to you're going to make it exempt from pavement parking, and obviously you and I have had quite a few discussions about different areas where that could apply. So this is a very difficult thing that we're involved in. But again, I just wanted to make the point, Chair, and thanks for allowing me to come in, that this isn't about the money. So thanks, Chair, and I'd be interested to hear Colin's comments on that.
Colin?
Yeah, no, thanks, Chair, and Councillor McLachlan, thanks for giving me the opportunity to come in and clarify that. I would say 100% this is not a money-making initiative here. Any money that we do raise through normal penalty charge notices or pavement parking notices is put back into the parking service to run the parking service. And we have been running for the last couple of years post-COVID, given the demand at a bit of a loss. So anything that is generated goes back into the service and or is reinvested into the kind of road and transport network. In terms of exemptions, the November committee, Community and Enterprise Committee, did set out a year. Given our experiences over the first quarter of this year, I'm hopefully going to come forward a bit earlier with a paper for some internal discussion in the first instance. Then obviously we'll come to this forum at some point as well, where we will start to identify we know areas now that we're likely to take forward for the exemptions, and we're kind of toying with the idea: do we start to identify these now? Do we make them known to people so they get the comfort that subject to a traffic regulation order being promoted successfully, we would not be having a high priority for enforcement in that area. And you know that's been my line since last year. So it is very challenging. It's probably one of the most challenged pieces of legislation I've dealt with in a 30-year career in local government, because it's, you can't argue with it, but the practicalities of it are pretty challenging. You know, we've got 50% of our inquiries are people asking us to enforce, and the other 50% of that are telling us not to because they can't park anywhere else. So we're just trying to kind of find a way through it. But the intelligence that we've gathered certainly identifies some areas where there's really no other option for people, some areas where people can easily park more sensibly, but they're just not, and other areas where we feel, you know, we can't enforce it. So a paper will probably come forward post summer recess again, but it's hopefully sooner than the entire year. And if we might start to publish something online on our website in an advisory way as opposed to a formal way in terms of streets and areas that may be subject to an exemption. Thanks, Chair.
In practical terms, the Council is having to operate legislation from the Scottish Parliament, which, to say the least, is tricky, without going to the inside of it, well motivated, on the ground, very, very difficult. And I think in practical terms, it is actually quite important behind this that people actually know where they stand in terms of the legal position. At the moment, where they stand is that it's illegal to park on the pavement, and unless and until that is qualified by exemption zones and things like that, you know, people are left in a very uncertain position altogether. That's really the underlying, like, equitable issue that lies behind this. Some areas, as Colin has touched on, it's very, very difficult to envisage how you could operate this without making ordinary life, if you like, in the area very difficult. Other areas, undoubtedly, people should do what the law says and stay off the pavement. No two ways about that. Anyway, we'll see where this all goes. There's more developments to come, as we've heard. And we'll hear a bit more detail as the information that's coming in, the 600 letters and all that, is assessed, and some sort of proposal made out of all of that. So thank you, colleagues, for that. Thank you for your patience, too, on this one. It's a very difficult one for ward members, I think. Can I move that report?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 7. Sorry? Sorry, 7?
No, it's he declared an interest. So yes.
Oh, yes, that's right, item 7, yes. You declared an interest on this one, John, I think. Do we need him to go and leave?
Yeah, but I don't think I need to leave the room for it.
No, I was thinking that myself. What do you think?
No, that's fine. Just make it a transparency statement. It was just
Yeah. Could we maybe just clarify that as being a transparency statement rather than a declaration of interest as such, I think? Yeah, is that okay? Thanks, that makes it a bit easier to manage the thing. It's transparent and everybody knows the position. Okay, item 7 is the Employability Annual Investment Plan, pages 61 to 78. Could I invite Douglas Hashigan for his main event to speak to that report, please?
Thanks very much, Chair. So the annual investment plan for employability for 2025-26. So the Council delivers and funds a range of employability programmes designed to help local people experiencing barriers to employment to move into work or further learning. These programmes are funded by a range of sources, including core council budgets and external funding from Scottish Government, UK Government, Shared Prosperity Fund and Community Benefit funding. Part of the main funding we receive from Scottish Government, No One Left Behind, part of the conditions of that funding are that we develop and submit an annual investment plan which sets out the range of programmes across all those funding streams, and that plan is agreed in partnership with the South Lanarkshire Local Employability Partnership, which includes all the key partners we expect to see around the table. The actual plan itself is attached at Appendix 1. Just as a bit of context, the funding that sits within that plan includes No One Left Behind funding from Scottish Government of over 4.6 million, which is split into all-age support, parental employability and specialist employability support. And for 25-26, the specialist employability support has been added, and that's designed to support people with long-term health or disability-related barriers to employment. The Council's been a wee bit ahead of the game. We've had some programmes in place during 2024-25 that supported that group, which will continue into this financial year. So as well as No One Left Behind, we have UK Shared Prosperity funding of 1.7 million, and we're anticipating drawing down up to £500,000 of wind farms community benefit funding as well. So the annual investment plan itself targets key priority groups and is set out to comply with the Scottish approach to employability, which includes dignity and respect, fairness and equality and continuous improvement, flexible and person-centred support, is straightforward for people to navigate, is integrated and aligned with other services, provides pathways to sustainable and fair work, is driven by evidence, data and the experience of users, and supports people to move into the right job at the right time. So through the partnership, we've identified a range of key priority groups, and each of those key priority groups have access to a key worker-based service delivered either by the Council or Routes to Work South, the Council's arm's-length organisation for employability. And Table 2 sets out those priority groups and the key worker services. So for young people aged 15 to 19, including young people in the last 6 months of school, with the Aspire service delivered by our internal employability team. For adults with barriers to employment, with Gateway to Employment through Routes to Work South. For adults with long-term health barriers to employment, primarily mental health, we have the intensive support programme through Routes to Work South. For adults and young people with learning disabilities, we've got a supported employment project which is delivered on an in-house basis by our own team in the Council. And for unemployed or low-wage parents, we've got the Support and Families programme delivered by the Council and Making It Work delivered by Routes to Work South. And for people resident within postcodes within the Kitemuir and Middlemuir wind farm communities, there's an enhanced support available through the Connect to Renewables programme. So all those people that have access to a key work support programme also have access to a range of learning and training provision, which is set out at the table at 5.3. This includes the RISE, REACH and Impact group work programmes for young people delivered by Routes to Work South, a supported volunteering programme delivered by VASLAN, which will match participants with paid volunteering placements within the local third sector, and there'll be a payment that goes over to the providers as well. The Employability Academy, which is delivered by South Lanarkshire College and delivers a range of vocational accredited training courses linked to the needs of people in the caseloads and labour market opportunities. Money and benefit advice delivered by the Council's Money Matters team. Health and wellbeing supports delivered by South Lanarkshire Leisure to support people at that early stage of employability engagement. The Demonstrator programme, which provides wage placements for parents across the NHS, the Council within their own facilities department and the State Hospital at Carstairs. And Project Search, which is a support employment programme for young people delivered in partnership with NHS Lanarkshire and New College Lanarkshire. And as well as engagement in the programme, participants have access to a range of financial supports, including training allowances, expenses and funding to pay for individual pieces of training where it can lead to employment. We also have a flexible budget that's supported through the Employability Partnership, whereby we can respond to the needs of the labour market to deliver training where it can lead to employment opportunities or to support the needs of the caseload. In 2024 and 2025, this included things like construction tasters, the Rail Skills Academy, QTS linked to the rail works that we just talked about, construction skills certification scheme, training and an online conference building programme, and we'd anticipate continuing some of that work into this financial year as well. So moving on away from the annual investment plan, part of the service delivers vocational and work-based learning to pupils in the senior phase through our Foundation Apprenticeship and Graduate programmes. The Foundation Apprenticeship programme is funded by Skills Development Scotland and the Scottish Funding Council and provides pupils in S5 and S6 with real-world work experience and access to work-based learning while completing qualifications within the SCQF framework at level 6. The programme within South Lanarkshire is well established as a partnership between the Council, South Lanarkshire College and New College Lanarkshire, and is funded through a blend of the Council's own contract with Skills Development Scotland, Scottish Funding Council credits through the colleges, and the paper seeks approval to enter into a partnership agreement for a consortium agreement for the delivery of that programme from August 2025. The graduate programme is an in-house programme that we've developed within South Lanarkshire, which targets, again, young people in the senior phase, delivered at SCQF level 4 and 5, where young people can access one of 12 vocational frameworks at South Lanarkshire College, New College Lanarkshire and Glasgow Kelvin College, attending 1 day a week. The programme is funded through a blend of funding, including credits through the Scottish Funding Council and core council budgets, which provide staff and support on site to the young people that are taking part in the programme, as well as transport costs. And approvals sought to enter into partnership agreements for 25-26 for this programme. And if we take you back to the recommendations at number 1, it's that the annual investment plan for 25-26 is approved, that the consortium agreement for the Foundation Apprenticeship Programme is approved, and that the partnership agreement for the delivery of the graduate programme is approved.
Thanks very much, Douglas. This is a pretty important report in a number of respects, not least against the background of the challenges that are faced by many employers, including the council, in getting people into employment. You know, the onus on dealing with disadvantaged, hard-to-reach groups, care experience groups, dare I say it as well, is hugely important. And I think the work that's done by the 78 employees, I'm sure they all have value for their money in that regard, is hugely important. Alan Faulkner.
Thanks, Chair. It's just in page 67, I notice we mention working with our partners, and partners seem to be Vaslan Leisure Services, Route to Work, Money Matters. As a corporate council, are we not working with social work? The reason I ask is, in the last 2 years, the social work department, with our colleagues in North Lanarkshire, set up an academy to recruit workers for home care services. And I don't think it's been that successful when we look at the amount of jobs advertised. And obviously with yesterday's news, there'll be even less getting recruited. So we know working with social work to encourage people into these academies.
Douglas?
Yeah, so we work closely with social work. I think the appendix set out some of the external partners, but we work very closely with social work, both from a referral point of view, in terms of referring young people and adults that are receiving social work services to come in to receive support, but also to support the filling of vacancies where it's appropriate for people on the caseload. And actually had a meeting over the past couple of weeks with colleagues in some of our daycare services to see where we can work better together to match people into vacancies that they have on an ongoing basis.
Okay, any other questions? Can I then move the report?
No, second it.
Thanks very much. That report's approved. Moving on to item 8, Community Benefit Funds, Renewable Energy Fund grant applications, pages 79 to 88. I think Kenny Lean's going to deal with this one. Kenny.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. So, yes, this report is a Renewable Energy Grant Fund application seeking approval for 6 applications. At point 3, the report gives the background to the Renewable Energy Fund and sets out that for grants above 20,000, committee approval is required. And at 3.3, sets out some of the strategic changes that were made to the fund in February 2024, including revenue funding and increasing the intervention and funding larger and more strategically impactful projects. Items 4 to 9 set out the detail of each of the projects in both what they will deliver, the match funding and the scoring, and I'll summarise that as follows. The first grant application is from Douglas Water Golf Club for $45,865 for the purchase of course maintenance and equipment. The second grant is for Dunedin Community Trust for up to £31,050, 12 pence, for the employment of a community development officer for 2 years on a part-time basis. The third grant is from East Renfrewshire Council for up to £72,635 for the employment of the Whiteley Countryside Ranger Service. The fourth grant is from Gillespie Community Group SCAO for up to £26,000 to install solar panels and new heating on a community hall. Fifth grant is a grant to Kirkmere Hill and Blackwood Men's Shed for the purchase of a building for up to £96,500 for the provision of a men's shed within the village. And the sixth grant application is from Stroyven Rugby Football Club Limited for up to £670,000, £769 for the construction of an indoor community training facility. I would refer you back to item 2 for the approval of those 6 grant applications.
Thanks very much, Kenny. My impression is that with these community benefit funding grants, we're now getting into the scene where we're taking advantage of the new strategies and facilities we gave them, and more flexibility recently, so that it's dealing with employment, it's dealing with a number of other things, the revenue funding and so forth. So I'm very pleased to support these ones. Any questions on the individual details? Susan Kerr. Susan.
No, like yourself, I just wanted to say that, that as a local member, which proudly has the Straven Rugby and Football Club in my ward, I am very happy to support the funds being awarded to the club. This facility that they're proposing will be an invaluable asset to the community and beyond, providing safe, inclusive and a dynamic space for athletes of all ages, skills to train, compete and engage in healthy physical activity in all weathers. It will position Straven as a centre for rugby excellence and create new opportunities for training, not just for rugby, but for football, netball, badminton and all sorts of other sort of things, running, I believe, and weight training. So I just think it's just wonderful. So yeah, I'm very, very happy to approve this. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Alan Faulkner. Alan.
Thanks, Chair. I've got to totally disagree with my colleague. When I look at the amount of money that's gone here, we're shutting day centres and libraries all over the place. We need to be looking into the legislation of this. And can I bring an example you've got later there? It's a men's shed in Colburn, £200,000. Colburn has got 1,900 people. Hull House, where we are, we just shut our library. We've got 10,000 people who are paying council tax to educate and provide social work for places like Colburn, and they're walking away. I think it's a disgrace. I think we need to look in at the funding and the legislation.
It's certainly true that I think we're all jealous in the urban areas of the REF funding. There's no two ways about that at all. But it is actually against the background of trying to sustain rural communities taking advantage of this unusual development of themes. So I'm personally got no qualms about supporting these particular grants. Can I therefore... Sorry, David, do you want to say something else?
I suppose just to supplement what the Chair has said is that that these grants are given out and they're based on legal agreements that are set out in terms of the wind farm operators. So it follows that course. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Can I move the report, unless there's anything further on that one? No?
I'll second it.
Thanks very much. Report's approved. Can I move on to item 9? Again, the Renewable Energy Fund. This is new wind farm contributions, pages 89 to 94. In this instance, can I invite Alison Brown to speak to the report? Sorry, I beg your pardon, it's not, it's Kenny Lean again. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is the report regarding new wind farm funds coming in, and they are set out within the legal agreements and the governance from government that they're community benefit funds and quite strictly limited to the terms that they can be used to, which is the way the RAF is set out. But this is to do with new wind farm funds from Kitemuir Extension and Cumberhead wind farm funds. Item 3 sets out the background for the governance of the Renewable Energy Fund and the income that comes at £5,000 per megawatt, as recommended by the Scottish Government and subject to index linking. 3.3, we set out the strategic direction for the investment of the fund as agreed last year at this committee in February. 3.4 sets out further details around about those changes. At items 4, we set out the detail of each of the 2 wind farms, and the 4.1 and the appendix sets out the eligibility area. The eligibility area is agreed between the wind farm company and the local communities and as part of the legal agreement. Item 4.2 sets out the income from Cumberhead Wind Farm, which was agreed in 2021, is operated by Octopus Energy and consists of 12 turbines with an output of 48,000 megawatt. The income for this is set out at 4.3. Half of the £5,000 per megawatt will come into the Council's RAF fund and half will be administered by Foundation Scotland. The fund will be index linked. At 4.4, the Kitemuir wind farm extension, just south of Straven, is set out. It's currently operated by Schroeder Greencoat. The wind farm consists of 15 turbines with a maximum height of 200 metres and generates 6.7 megawatt per annum. The LUIGO agreement again agrees £5,000 per megawatt, totalling £336,000 per annum, with half of this being managed by Point North for the Kitemuir Community Partnership and half of the 168 within the Council's REF fund. The annual contribution started in 2024. Moving back to item 2, we're seeking approval for bringing these two funds within the governance of the Council's REF fund.
Thanks very much, Kenny. If there's no questions, can I move the report?
I'll second it.
Thanks very much indeed. This report's approved. Moving on to item 10, UK's Shared Prosperity Fund 25-26, pages 95 to 100, and this is Alison Brown to speak to this one.
Thank you. This report sets out the proposed programme for the UK Shared Prosperity Fund for 25-26. In 2022, the Council received an allocation of just over £12 million from the UK Government for an initial programme of 3 years to 24-25. Table 1 sets out the financial split by an intervention theme, and Table 2 sets out the financial profile over the 3-year period. The UK Government did not permit any underspend from 24-25 to be carried forward to this financial year, and I'm pleased to say that the Council did achieve full spend in 24-25. In November, the Chancellor confirmed that SPF would continue for one further year into Year 4, however, with a reduction of broadly 40% from previous years. Council allocations have been adjusted to prioritise areas with highest deprivation, and Table 3 provides details of the confirmed allocations for managing authorities within Glasgow City region. As is suggested, Council's budget has been reduced, and in our instance it's by 44% to a budget of £4 million. Officers have worked across the Council to prepare a proposal which delivers on the Council's priorities, but also fits with the UK Shared Prosperity Fund budget. Table 4 sets out the proposed allocation, which covers a range of activities including high street and town centres, net zero, tourism, community empowerment, business infrastructure and employability. Turning back to the recommendation, I'd ask committee to note the changes to the programme and approve the expenditure profile for 25-26.
Thank you very much. This funding is highly regrettable, the reduction in funding, but the use of it is hugely important to the Council's priorities, not least with the East Kilbride Master Plan, to the town centre changes, to Larkhall Academy and others. Can I move the report if nobody's got any questions on the report?
I'll second the report.
Thanks very much indeed. Can we approve that report? Thank you. Item 11, items for noting. Community Benefit Funds, the 24-25 annual report, pages 101 to 114. Again, Alison Brown to speak to that report.
Thank you. This report provides an update on the Community Benefits Fund administered by the Council during 24-25. The Council administers the community benefit element of the Renewable Energy Fund for 42 wind farms within South Lanarkshire, the community benefit for Clyde Wind Farm and 5 operational quarries. Community groups, social enterprise trusts, public organisations and not-for-profit organisations within a 10-kilometre of the contributing wind farm are eligible to apply to the fund. Between the various funds, £4.9 million was administered during 24-25. In respect of the Renewable Energy Fund, £3.5 million of contributions were received, in which they supported 102 projects, and that's set out in Appendix 1. REF also funds microgrants to community councils or similar organisations, and 25 of these awards were made, and again those are set out in Appendix 2. During the year, more than 9,000 was received from 6 quarry operators, which supported 3 projects, and that's set out in Appendix 3. 1.3 million was received from the Clyde Wind Farm during 24-25, which supported 15 new projects, as set out in Appendix 4. A microgrant fund was also support 6 community councils within the Clyde Wind Farm area, and again details of these are set out in Appendix 5. And turning back to the recommendation, I just ask committee to note the community benefits administered by the Council.
Thanks very much. Questions? Councillor Kirsten Robb. Kirsten.
Thank you. Thanks, Alison. This will be a newbie question. The money is mentioned about what's going in and out, but how much have we got in the bank from renewable energy? I also welcomed the approach. I think somewhere in the report is saying council officers are working on more strategic projects that can maybe tap into that. So it's just a kind of factual thing. How much have we got in the renewable energy bank?
Thank you, and I'll maybe defer to Kenny in a minute, but the Renewable Energy Fund, I suppose picking up on Councillor Faulkner's point, it operates within a 10-mile radius, so at any one time each community has different amounts in the bank, if you like. So if we can provide a breakdown of that per community, it does vary, and obviously as new wind farms come on, and we've just seen the previous approval, more money will come into the pot, so it does vary for different communities. But Kenny, is there anything further to add?
Kenny?
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, Councillor. I don't have the figure to hand. I can provide it. It changes on a daily basis. What I would say, picking up on what Alison has said, is that we do now publish on the website an approximate value for each town, but that's available at any point in time and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I can get a figure to you of what's in the bank, so to speak.
Louise, I see you're up. I think you must have something to offer on this one.
I was just going to say the same. Obviously, finalising for the financial year end, we can get a position at the 31st of March and get that across to members.
Yeah, thank you. I think what's very clear is the Community Benefit Fund provide an enormous uplift of funding which the Council would not otherwise have in rural areas in particular, but also the benefit of the micro grants in the urban areas too. So I think it is something which benefits the whole Council. As we touched on before, there has been strategical changes to give more flexibility within the fund, and I think it's hugely important that that is viewed as something which will sustain the rural communities in particular and to make them more viable long term. A lot of the work that's been done is to bring that about, and I think you can see in a way the list of projects just how successful that has been in many regards. Can I move the report?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much indeed, and that report's approved. Item 12 is the Lark Hall, sorry, I beg your pardon, the community benefit, no? Yep. Just done that one. Thank you. Sorry, a bit of administrative dispute there. Item 12, the Lark Hall Leisure Centre Progress Update, pages 115 to 118. Again, Alison Brown to speak to that report.
Thank you. In February 2024, the Council confirmed funding of 23.9 for a new Lark Hall Leisure Centre and subsequently appointed Hub South West and BAM Construction to deliver the project. Due to budget availability, a like-for-like replacement facility was not possible. Community engagement of draft plans was undertaken in October and November last year, with strong support received for the swimming pool, gym and fitness suite. However, there was negative feedback regarding the lack of a games hall. Officers have also been working to amend the contractual arrangements at Lark Hall Academy to provide community access to the games hall and gyms. It is anticipated that physical works to facilitate this will take place during this year's school summer holidays. In February this year, full Council approved an additional £3.85 million for the project, taking the total project budget to £27.75 million, which has required the design team to redevelop the proposals as set out in paragraph 4.1. A series of meetings are currently being scheduled to share the revised proposals with key stakeholders, and wider community engagement will take place thereafter. Due to the design and costing process, the programme for delivery has had to be extended as set out in paragraph 4.3. Paragraph 4.4 advises that there may need to be a full demolition of the existing centre required in order to progress the works on site. I'm pleased to advise that the contractor has confirmed that this need not be the case and only partial demolition, as previously intended, would be the case. Committee is therefore asked to note the changes to the project scope and programme following the increased project budget. Thank you.
In terms of questions, Ross Clark.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much to Alison for that report and to all the officers who have worked on this, especially those who attended the public consultations. I know they weren't the easiest at times, but it's really important that that work was undertaken. More generally, would very much like to welcome this report, and I note that specifically the Free Court Games Hall and how it specifically mentions badminton, pickleball and five-a-side football and how it will be suitable for all those activities. So that's certainly good news that this is progressing. Of course, people would like this to happen as quickly as possible, but I think there is that understanding there that with these changes it was always going to take a bit longer. When the community campaign was happening, I had some emails coming in with some people suggesting that the whole project should be put on hold until the funding was available. So I think there will be that understanding there, things will take longer. But it's good news to hear about that it will only be a partial demolition of the current centre will be required. So that's really good to hear, and I think people will be pleased to hear that. In terms of going forward, it would be good to get as much community consultation as possible. I know that's recognised, and obviously where appropriate. I know it can't be at every single stage, but every single stage that is possible and appropriate to, that would be good to see. In terms of making Larkhall Academy a dual use facility, I understand the department will be meeting with elected members and key community stakeholders, and these discussions are still ongoing, but if anything can be shared on the work with that, that would be good to hear, because it is also good to see that the sharing facilities with the Academy is now going to be an addition rather than a replacement of facilities. But overall, to welcome this progressing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ross. Andy Carmichael.
Andy, Robert, thank you very much. Just like Councillor Clark there, I welcome this. It's been long overdue for many, many years. And thankfully, due to this administration, who secured additional funding to get this project up and running. And secondly, with the additional funding for the provision of the Games Hall, etc., it is most welcome, and it's what the people of Larkhall want and need, and I welcome that, and I look forward to the proposed plan meetings that are coming up soon with elected members. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Andy. And I think, speaking for the administration and I think for the council, I think we're very glad to see this project going forward at last. There will be issues, no doubt, as it goes forward, but I think the issue is now one of delivery, making sure that the thing happens, gets on the ground as quickly as it can be, and gets finished and operative for the people of Larkhall. It has been a difficult process to some degree. I remember going to a meeting, I know Ross and others were at that, with party leaders and local reps quite a while ago now, where there was a number of issues raised there. And I think that if we'd said at that time we would be where we are now, people I think would have been very pleased. So I think the progress has been made is very, very considerable on that matter. Can I therefore move the report?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much indeed. I've got no other urgent business, and can I therefore thank people for their attendance today and bring the meeting to an end. Thank you.